Everybody has a to-do list. I keep a to-don't list. A to-don't list is you think about the things that waste your time, drain your energy, suck the very life out of you. Then you don't do them, obviously, but you treat that to-don't list with the same sanctity with which you treat your to-do list. For me, my most important to-don't is don't spend the first hour of the day answering email.
From LinkedIn News, I'm Jessi Hempel, and this is Hello Monday. This week, we are talking about productivity with none other than Daniel Pink. Dan's a 7-time New York Times bestselling author. He's a go-to voice on motivation and performance. And we have had him on Hello Monday twice before. I'm always excited to hear his new ideas and advice. Today, we'll be zoning in on how to get meaningful work done well. This conversation was originally recorded live and broadcast to premium members from New York. You'll hear some questions from other people who were there. And if you're a LinkedIn Premium member, you can see the extended version at the link in our show notes. Okay, here's Dan.
Productivity has a definition. It's basically units of output over time. Whether that is a relevant definition today is a totally different question. So to me, productivity is about getting meaningful work done.
Yes.
Period.
We all want to do that.
Right.
Too often we mistake getting all the emails answered or getting the boss's questions to them on time as getting the work created.
You notice that I slid that adjective meaningful right before work.
So important.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to talk a lot about how to do that today. And I want to start by spending a little bit of time on how we identify our most important projects. Yeah. What is the cost of thinking about everything as a priority?
You don't get anything done. I mean, there are a few problems with that. The first is that the impact you have in the world is going to be because of a few things, not because of everything. And so focusing on those few things is the most important thing. The second thing is that we have a tendency in our bodies and minds that when we're faced with a big thing and some little things, we'll do the little things first and kind of eat our way up to the big thing, but we never actually reach there.
I am still so guilty of that, Dan. All these years. I've heard you say that to me before, and yet it's still so hard to do it.
I mean, we're wired not to want to confront these big, daunting tasks.
Yes.
And so the question is, do we change ourselves or do we change our environment? And it's much easier to change your environment than it is to change yourself. I suffer from the same thing. So among the things that you can do is you can re-architect your environment so that you can focus on those most important things. So for instance, I still use pencil and paper, literally pencil and paper. And so almost every day when I have my to-do list, I will put at the top, MIT, most important task. And I will write that, and I will do that first. Sometimes I will only write that on my to-do list, one thing. And then we'll fill in the rest of the to-do list once I accomplish that. So that's one way of getting rid of the distraction. Another thing is I don't bring my phone with me into the office, especially on writing days. That's another form of distraction. Or I allot myself maybe 10 minutes just to quickly look at email, and that's it. Literally setting a timer and not doing that. Re-architect your environment so you can do the meaningful things and the important things.
Okay, so you slipped in that word on writing days.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about what we're all going for when we want to create meaningful new things, which is deep focus.
Yeah.
And I want to know how you get to deep focus for yourself.
Well, I mean, you design for it, all right?
Yeah.
The thing is, the human mind, the human brain is not going to naturally end up in deep focus, all right? My human mind is going to end up in, puzzle games and ESPN highlights, all right? If left to its own devices. So what you have to do is remove those kinds of things. And so this is one of those cases where and I've written a lot about autonomy, and autonomy is incredibly important, but there's also something to be said for structure and for boundaries. And so for me, I'll just give you, this is how I write. Your mileage may vary, on writing days, I will go into my office. I will not bring my phone with me. That's actually really, really important. I won't bring my phone with me. I'll give myself a word count. And I will not do anything until I hit that word count.
Oof.
That's it. Exactly. That's what it feels. Believe me, the first 10 minutes are like that.
My heart's hurting.
And then it's like, okay, get over yourself and start working. And then it's not that bad. And then eventually you hit your word count. And then you're liberated to do everything else, like answer meaningless emails, watch sports highlights.
Okay, so I love that. I've already taken sort of 2 golden rules from talking to you. And the first is like most important task.
Yeah.
The second is this idea of like hitting a word count, leaving your phone on the other side of the door. That is your personal golden rule. Do you have any sort of a framework for our audience or a golden rule that like works for everyone?
No, I don't think so, because everyone is different, both personality, psychologically, and everyone's work is different.
Yeah.
And the truth is, Jessi, that sometimes days are different. The point is that you want to impose some structure, not too much structure, but it's sort of a Goldilocks level of structure. And for me, that Goldilocks level of structure is, because I'm a writer, is in a word count. What other people might do is to say, I'm going to block out a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And that's going to be undistracted time. And whatever I get done during that time is a win.
Yeah.
And so that is also a structure.
I love that. I love that. I love naming wins in particular there.
I love naming wins.
Do you?
Well, here's the thing. We have a lot of evidence about this. So Teresa Mobile, who's a researcher professor at Harvard Business School. She started out her career doing research on creativity, some really, really great stuff. She moved it a little bit onto motivation. One of the things that she's found in research about 8 or 9 years ago is that the single biggest day-to-day motivator on the job is making progress in meaningful work. She used that word meaningful too, right? Making progress in meaningful work. The thing is, we often don't see the progress that we make. And so I think actually recording the progress that you make, taking a progress ritual at the end of the day and writing down 3 ways you made progress that day is another way to see the progress that you're making, to see those wins.
You know, this is a great time to actually bring in some of our subscriber questions. This question comes from Richard in Utah. And Richard is speaking to something that I got to tell you, when we were preparing for this conversation, we heard from so many of you, which is that we don't always get to prioritize what we are trying to do, right? So Richard asks, what's your advice for workers whose most important projects keep getting deprioritized by leadership, adding new fires?
Okay. Richard, number one, I feel your pain. Because when I was working in the old days, when I actually had bosses and worked in an office and things, I would confront this. And what I learned to do was both conceptual and practical. The conceptual thing is actually don't assume that your boss is trying to torture you by doing this, right? Usually your boss is facing the same kinds of pressures. So have a little empathy for your boss. The second thing, which I did many times, was this. Listen, you want me to do this thing? Let me show you what I have on my list right now of things to do. I can add this. Please tell me which of this current list do you want me to deprioritize?
Yes.
And that usually stops them. And it forces them to think, because a lot of times those 7 things are like, oh God, you're still doing that? I didn't even realize you were still doing that. Get rid of that and do something else. Now, if your boss is constantly changing the target on things, that's a bad boss or a dysfunctional organization. That's harder. That to me, that problem is not on you to solve, except for maybe finding a new job.
Yes, I hear you. And also, you know, and I know, we are working in organizations often right now that are having to move very quickly. And the experience of working on a project full bore and then discovering actually that project is now dead and you need to be working on this thing, that is no longer the hallmark of a bad organization. That is often a business reality.
Exactly.
And so another challenge that we have as humans is to find where we can find meaning in the work that we are doing while also being willing to let go of it quickly.
I agree with that completely. I couldn't say it any better. But the thing about that is I think a lot of times when things go poorly, we as human beings, we personalize it too much. My boss doesn't like me, and that's why she's doing this thing. My boss is incompetent, that's why she's doing these things. You could very well, not you, but one could very well have a boss who's incompetent and doesn't like you. That's truthful. But in many cases, the boss is as beleaguered as you are, and the boss is operating in an environment where you wake up one morning and suddenly it no longer pays to be a software engineer because Claude Code does everything.
Yeah. You know, one thing we're trying to do internally that has made a real difference for morale is celebrating the work. Even when we need to cut it, even when we need to end the show, actually that's the moment to celebrate the fact of the work that we put into the show.
There is a line out there, and it's not mine. I can't remember who came up with it, but that I use sometimes, which is basically the work is the win.
Yeah.
The work is the win. And that's hard to stomach sometimes, particularly in a creative profession. But it's like, because people like to win more than they like to lose. But if you think about the work as the win, that can help you get over that.
I love that. Okay, this question comes from Dev in India. In today's AI-accelerated world, productivity has increased, but clarity is declining, says Dev. How can professionals ensure they are not just doing tasks faster, but choosing the right tasks?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's a brilliant question, Dev. It's important to take stock periodically. Mm-hmm. So one thing that you could do on that is, at the beginning of the week, say, what are the most important things I can accomplish this week?
Yeah. And then
list those 3 things. I'm a Trinitarian. I like things in 3s. So list the 3 things that I want to accomplish this week. And then during the course of the week, when you get sucked into the maw, when you're down the rabbit hole, look at those 3 things and say, is this moving me toward those 3 things? And at the end of the week, evaluate that. Yeah. And so I think that those simple check-ins, I look at it almost as wayfinding. And so if you start saying, okay, let me get a sense of where I am. Let me take a moment in the day or a moment at the beginning of the week or a moment at the end of the week to say, give me a sense of where I am. That can help you out a lot on that, Dev.
I love that. I love that pause to pull it all together at a regular cadence.
You could do beginning of the week, end of the week, and Wednesday lunch.
Just the quick pause. Okay, so this question comes from Mark in Ohio, and it really speaks to something that we depend on you for, Dan, which is like the best de facto advice on productivity hacks that we've talked about before. So Mark wants to know, are we still considering the classics like Pomodoro techniques, or has evidence moved further? Are there things that are more effective or better when we're looking for actually just how to maximize time?
Okay, so if we're thinking about how to maximize time, I want to say to Mark, my Buckeye brother, because I grew up in Ohio myself, I'm a big fan of the Pomodoro technique.
Yeah.
And so if the Pomodoro technique works for you, go for it. Now, Pomodoro technique, for those who don't know, is it's based on an Italian kitchen timer.
Yeah.
And so you imagine a kitchen timer in the shape of a tomato, a Pomodoro, and you turn it 25 minutes, and it goes click, 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 click. And then what you do is you set the Pomodoro, and you then just work during that 25-minute segment and don't do anything else, and then do it again. And I use it. I'll tell you a dirty little secret. There is a book that I wrote, a book called When, where in the acknowledgments, I thank the guy who invented the Pomodoro.
I get
because
that.
I was having such a difficult time writing the book that I basically just had a Pomodoro my way through. But the thing is, you do 1,000 Pomodoros, you can get a lot of work done.
I rely on the Pomodoro technique.
Yeah.
I absolutely rely on it to get anything done.
You use it for writing or do you use it for other things?
I use it for writing. Also, every Saturday morning, I use it for cleaning my house. A
Nice.
task that I really cannot stand doing.
That's
Cannot stand
fantastic.
doing
I should
it.
do that.
Well,
I should do that for cleaning up my office because I hate cleaning up my office.
I can do it for 7 minutes, and then I can do something else for 7 minutes, and then I
Okay.
can do it for another 7 minutes.
Okay.
But here is the most important thing you said in describing that. You said you have to customize and figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
There are people other than you and me for whom the Pomodoro technique is not the answer.
Yeah, exactly. So again, I think about our lives as kind of, I think the more we approach our lives as scientists, the better off we'll be.
Yeah.
Have a hypothesis. My hypothesis for Mark is that the Pomodoro technique is going to work well for him. Here's my hypothesis. Mark tests the hypothesis. If it works, keep doing it. If it doesn't work, you have a null finding. Try another experiment.
Okay, I love this. I'm going to move us on to our second topic for the day, which is really about how we reclaim our focus and our time. And you have, I kind of want to dive into this. You have a famous sort of anti-practices strategy. I wonder if you want to talk us through that.
Well, I mean, these are the things that I've collected over the years. I did not invent this, but my favorite one, which it's too bad I should have brought it with me here because it's on my desk, is a to-don't list. Everybody has a to-do list. I keep a to-don't list, and I think this is one that is actually close to universally practical. And so a to-don't list is you think about the things that waste your time, drain your energy, suck the very life out of you. Okay, here you go. You notice and you memorialize. You write those things down,
Right.
and you treat that to-don't list. Then you don't do them, obviously, but you treat that to-don't list with the same sanctity with which you treat your to-do list. I mean, we have this kind of almost reverential, kind of quasi-biblical approach to our to-do list, and that
Right.
we look at it all the time. We bow to it. We write on it and do things. And so keep your to-don't list in a place where you see it. And so just to make it specific, for me, my most important to-don't is don't spend the first hour of the day answering email.
Yeah, that's been true about you as long as I have ever interviewed you.
That I don't always abide by that, and this is why it's still on my to-don't list for 2026. But that is one of the most important things.
Okay.
Because it's very rarely is answering email the most important thing you have to do that day.
I feel like even as you're saying that, I don't know about the rest of you, but my head is just ticking through my own to-don't list that I am surfacing right now.
What?
So I will tell you, but it's going to embarrass me a little bit. Okay, Instagram. I have done the things. I have turned my phone to grayscale.
Yeah.
I have made promises to myself to put my phone in other rooms. And somehow...
Have you set a time limit?
I've set a time limit. Somehow, shy of taking that particular app off my phone, why that one? I don't know. Maybe for some people it's other. Somehow I still find myself there. And I look up like I have been caught in some sort of a coma, and there I am. Put that on my to-don't list, and I swear I buy myself hours.
I think that what would you tell someone else to do in this situation?
I would tell someone to keep it on the top of their to-don't list, because here's the thing. We are building habits. We are not fixing problems one-offs, right?
Yeah.
So
I'll push you even further, man.
Okay.
Delete the app.
Yeah.
Here we go. Delete the app for a week and see how it goes.
Yeah. That is the better approach, right?
Just try it.
Sometimes it's like crossing the bridge. That is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, it's not just Instagram, right?
Oh.
I mean, there's a whole list of to-don'ts. It is amazing to me, though, how many of these to-don'ts have to do, for me, with using my device in some way.
Yeah.
And email is attached to that, too.
Yeah, of course.
What are some to-don'ts that don't have to do with technology and devices, Jonah?
Okay, so for me, again, because a lot of these to-don'ts are quite idiosyncratic. Here's one of mine. It's like, don't say yes to any obligation that you wouldn't do this week. So if someone says, hey, Dan, do you want to go do blah in August? And I'm like, oh, that sounds moderately interesting. And I'm sure that in August, I'm going to have plenty of time. And then August comes around and you're like, why did I agree to do this? So don't say yes to anything that you wouldn't say yes to if it was this week.
I love that one. In fact, I think I'm going to have to take that one. Okay, so we've got other questions coming in. This one comes from Anthony in India. How can we avoid overspending time on tasks so that all important priorities are completed within the day? Any tips beyond progress over perfection?
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard one. And I think I wrestle with that, with progress over perfection. I don't think that I ever get it right. I'll tell you one of the things that I do, and it's based on a famous story from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Okay, so Saturday Night Live, it's an American television program. It goes on live at 11:30 on Saturday night. And Lorne Michaels famously said, somebody asked him, like, how do you know when you're ready? And he says, we don't go on because we're ready. We go on because it's 11:30. Okay, and I sometimes literally will say to myself or say to my wife, who I work with, it's 11:30.
Yeah,
ship it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's a very American view, Anthony, but you might want to say to yourself at some point, just declare it's 11:30 and ship it. And you know what? Almost every time I've done that, it's been fine.
Yeah.
I mean, now that I think about it, I haven't really interrogated this, but I really think probably 98% of the time I've essentially declared it 11:30 and shipped. It's fine.
Yeah. I think one mistake that many people confess that they have made when sitting in the chair across from me is waiting too long on releasing a big thing, on making a big decision. People rarely feel like, oh, I moved too early.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we still got a lot of questions coming in. Aida from the UK asks, Dan, in your productivity toolkit, what's the biggest trap that keeps people busy but doesn't move things forward for them?
It's probably the feeling that we get of accomplishment for knocking off things that don't matter.
Yeah.
Whether it's email, whether it's going to a meeting, all those kinds of things. There is so I don't want to keep bashing on email, but we want to do things that feel productive. We want to do things that feel like we're making some progress. And so you clear out like 11 emails, that feels pretty good. It might not be the most important thing you have to do that day. Same thing is true with meetings. You go to the day, it's like, oh, I had 5 meetings today. What a great day.
Yeah.
All right. What'd you actually accomplish? So I think that's the trap. I mean, it's cliche, but you can be busy but not productive. You can be busy but not effective. Let's put it that way.
Busy but not effective.
Right.
Okay, this question comes from Imad in Sweden, and I like it. It speaks to saying no, which is a very hard thing to do, and people want to be better at it. When everything feels urgent, what's your simplest decision rule for saying no and protecting the 1 to 2 priorities that actually move the needle?
It depends on who you're saying no to, but one of the things that I have so there's a conceptual thing and a tactical thing, as always, all right? So the conceptual thing is we sometimes overestimate how disappointed people will be when we say no to them.
Yeah.
They're usually okay with it. Not all the time, but they're usually okay with it. So don't think that if you're saying no is going to be some colossal, devastating, life-destroying disappointment to somebody else, right? That's one thing. The second thing is to offer a reason why. And one of the things that I like to do is, that I think people can do, is just think about, just have in your reservoir a list of the reasons why. It's like, hi, I can't do this because I'm trying to protect my time because I'm on a deadline for a big project in the next few months. Hi, I was working really hard this past few months and I haven't spent a lot of time with my family, so I'm protecting my family time. I'm really sorry I can't do it. So don't think that people are going to be destroyed by your no, and often offer a reason why. And it's one of those things where our forecasting of how devastating it's going to be is always wrong.
I think that's such a good point. I know in my case personally, that leads me to then just put off the no, which always makes the no more difficult for the receiver.
Okay, don't do that, all right? A firm no. All right.
Yeah.
So a firm no unless you mean it. There are times when someone says, "Hey, do you want to do X, Y, or Z?" And it's like, and I say, "Oh, I would love to do that. I just can't do it in the next. Come back to me later." But
Yeah.
there are other times when I've done that to be polite, and that's always come back and bitten me.
Yeah.
So don't do that. Just a firm, declarative no. Thanks so much for thinking about me. I'm really grateful about your asking. Good luck on the project.
Okay, I want to switch topics now.
Yeah.
I want to talk about some of the work that, for me, has been your most impactful work.
Oh, thanks.
Which is your work on regret.
Thanks.
And in particular, how we can really use regret as an engine for change, as a way to direct us to a future that is more in line with whatever it is that we want or desire or need. So I wonder if you want to first set the stage for your work on regret and why you think it can be so useful.
Yeah, well, so I think regret is a profoundly misunderstood emotion. And so it's the emotion that we feel when we look backward and wish we had done something, wish we hadn't done something, wish we had done something different. It makes us feel bad. Okay, it's an unpleasant emotion. And we've often been told that the way to deal with that unpleasant emotion is to say, just forget about it. No regrets. Everything happens for a reason. And that's colossally bad advice. We have 60 years of research showing that regret is one of the most common emotions that human beings have. It is ubiquitous in the human experience. It is universal in a way that the Pomodoro technique might not be. All right, it's ubiquitous in the human experience. The thing is, it's also useful, and we haven't if we treat it right, we haven't treated it right. So what happens is people either ignore their regrets, or they wallow in them. They get captured by them. They ruminate on them. That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea too. What you want to do is you want to actually look them in the eye. You want to use your regrets as information, as data. What is this telling me? And when we do that, there's piles of evidence showing it can help us become better problem solvers, better negotiators, find more meaning in life, become better strategists. And so it's a misunderstood emotion, but it's a powerful emotion, and it's a transformative emotion if we treat it right.
So when you did your deep dive into regret, you actually went out and studied regret across a broad survey of people. I'm going to get the number wrong. How many people did you?
We had, I didn't go out. It came to me.
Yeah, it came to you.
I established this website that we call the World Regret Project, where we invited people around the world to submit their biggest regret. And so we have a database now of over 26,000 regrets from people in 130-something countries. And so what we found is that people seem to have around the world the same 4 core regrets. So one is a foundation regret. If only I'd done the work. These are small decisions that people make early in life that accumulate to terrible consequences later on.
Yeah.
Spent too much, saved too little, now I'm broke. I didn't eat right or exercise, now I'm unhealthy. Second category, boldness regrets. You look back, you were at a juncture in your life where you had a choice. You could play it safe or you could take the chance.
Yeah.
And overwhelmingly, people regret playing it safe and not taking the chance. And it doesn't matter the domain of life. It's true in careers, big time, but it's true in romance. It's true in travel. It's true in almost every realm of our life, that what we regret is what we didn't do. Third one, moral regrets. If only I'd done the right thing. You're at a juncture in your life. You can take the high road or you can take the low road. You can do the right thing, you can do the wrong thing. And most of the time, when we do the wrong thing, when we take the low road, we regret it. Because most of us are good and want to be good. And the final one are connection regrets, which is if only I'd reached out. Those are about relationships, and mostly not romantic relationships. They're about just the broader relationships in our lives. You have a relationship, it was intact or should have been intact, and it comes apart, usually slowly. And you want to reach out, and you say, oh man, it's going to be so awkward. I don't want to do that. And they're not going to care. So it drifts and drifts and drifts and drifts. So those are the 4: foundation regrets, boldness regrets, moral regrets, and connection regrets.
Okay, so I'm thinking about that for myself.
Yeah.
I can think about things in every category, right? What does understanding our regrets give us?
Well, it does a few things. It helps us understand what's important in our lives.
Right.
All these regrets give us a window into what really matters in life. So foundation regrets say, hey, a good life has a sturdy foundation to it. It's like it's not wobbly. It's not insecure. Boldness regrets are about learning and growth. Hey, you're only here for a finite amount of time. You might as well do something. Moral regrets are a good life is good, and connection regrets are a good life is about love. So looking at those regrets they're telling you what you value. That's the most important thing. They're telling you what you value. If you think about it, Jessi, yesterday, for instance, you probably made 150 decisions.
Yes.
In the course of your day.
Yes.
Most of them you don't remember today.
No,
Okay?
that is true.
All right?
That is
And yet
true.
there are certain things that all of us did or didn't do a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
that not only do we remember them, they bug us. We still think about them.
Yes.
That's a very strong signal. That's telling you something. And so that's the most important thing. The other thing, we can talk a little bit more tactically about what you do when you feel that spirit of regret. But the most important thing is like, these regrets are a knock at the door.
Yes.
Okay? So answer the door. Don't hide under the couch and don't pretend you don't hear it. Just answer it. Hey, what's up?
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea that a good regret audit can actually be the map of what we value. And that we may say that we may think that we value one set of things, but it is by looking at our regrets that we can deeply understand what we actually value. Dan, thank you for making us the top of your to-do list today.
Thank you. It was my MIT for the day. Come to New York and talk to Jessi.
That was Daniel Pink. If you haven't heard it already, it's worth going all the way back to the first season of Hello Monday and finding our conversation about how to use mornings well. It really is one of our most listened to episodes of all time. And if you're a premium member and you want to see the full version of this conversation, it's linked in the show notes. Okay, I'm Jessi Hempel, and this is Hello Monday. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you next week. Hello Monday is a production of LinkedIn News. The show is produced by Ava Ahmedbegi and Rachel Karp. Sound design and engineering by Asaf Gedron. The show is mixed by Tim Boland. Our theme music was composed just for us by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. Michaela Greer is a friend of the show forever, as is Victoria Taylor. Kyle Ranson-Walsh is editor-at-large of editorial graphics. Courtney Coop is head of original programming. Dan Roth is the editor-in-chief of LinkedIn. I'm Jessi Hempel. This is Hello Monday. See you next week.